Within just hours of being released from prison, a high-risk sex offender was rearrested by police in Vancouver. This happened yesterday. And it's raising concerns now about public safety and the rehabilitation process. CBC's Dan Burr joins me now to talk more about this. So Dan, people might remember the name, Randall Hopley. Might remember the picture as well, because he was the subject of a 10-day Canada-wide manhunt, and this was just about, 2 years ago?
That's right.
And now, so he was released and right away back in jail.
Now back in jail, yes. Anybody who remembers him and his face. Randall Hopley has a lengthy criminal record. He completed a 6-year prison term in 2011 for the 2011 abduction of a 3-year-old boy in southeastern BC. It was on all the headlines. He was released in 2018 to a Vancouver halfway house with a warning that he still posed in a supervisor's mind a significant risk to young boys. He was then arrested in early 2023, as you said, sir, for allegedly violating those conditions. That same year, later that year, he was the subject, as you said, of a 10-day manhunt that ended with him being found standing at the door, a locked door, of a Vancouver Police building in the downtown east side. Just yesterday, the VPD says Hopley left a prison in the Fraser Valley and was told to live at another Vancouver halfway house. They say he refused. They went in and arrested him. All this has the city's mayor and BC's premier wanting answers.
We are incredibly proud of what we do at the VPD into reacting to these situations. But it's almost a waste of time if these individuals keep getting released. And unfortunately, the City of Vancouver has absolutely no jurisdiction at addressing that root cause. And so we're calling on, Attorney General Nikki Sharma to explain, just what's going on here and what are the solutions here.
So deeply disappointed that notification was not provided by Corrections Canada to the public, especially in the immediate area of the area where Mr. Hopley was planned to be released so that people could prepare. I want to thank the Vancouver Police Department for being on top of this.
Okay, so that's the city official, that's the provincial official.
That's
what are
correct.
the federal officials saying?
Well, it turns out, Sarah, federal officials, it's not up to them to issue a public notice about an offender being released. It's actually the city, the jurisdiction in which the person will be released. In this case, it's not Correctional Service Canada's job. It would have been the VPD. The VPD says it weighed the CSC's assessment of Hopley, the recent assessment, that he was a low risk to reoffend violently, and they noted his right to privacy. But they say they stationed officers outside this halfway house. They say Hopley refused to put on a GPS ankle monitor. He walked away from the house, and officers pounced on him. They say Hopley's case and several others in BC have raised numerous concerns around public safety that we've reported on, Sarah. An RCMP officer turned opposition MLA says she thinks it shows that some offenders aren't prepared to be let out of prison.
The fact that they would so quickly reoffend, not show up to probationary meetings, in the case of Randall Hopley, not comply with a probation officer, it just shows they're not ready. So there has to be some look at the processes that are even evaluating these individuals.
And Vancouver Police say, given his history, they believe they will be justified in letting the public know if he is out again. As for BC's Attorney General, we heard being called out by the mayor there. She says they are searching for changes and asking for changes at the federal level right now, Sarah.
It's quite the story, the number of times he's been in and out of jail. We've been certainly paying attention to it both in British Columbia and across the country. Okay. Dan, thank you very much. I want to get more analysis on this. We've got Rishi Gill here. He is a criminal defense lawyer, former Crown prosecutor. Rishi, thanks so much for coming into the studio to talk about this. I mean, you're familiar with, I'm sure, Randall Hopley, the name, over the years. The fact that this has happened, and as I was just saying to Dan, so many times has been released and then arrested and back in jail. I mean, how common is this kind of thing? How often do you see it?
It's really uncommon, and if you actually looked at the stats, and I think it's really important, and I want to say that I think the public has every right to ask questions about this and be concerned, and I think when these things come up, especially with notorious criminals like this, it's in the public interest to figure out what's going on here. But I also think that if you actually look at the statistics, like the cold hard facts, the recidivism rate for violent offenders like Mr. Hopley, it is twice as much, meaning recidivism, meaning repeat offenders. It is twice as much for individuals who are not released, meaning if you stay in custody to the very end of your warrant expiry, which everybody says, well, politicians will say, yes, let's just keep them in, let's throw them in, and then they can get out when they're supposed to get out with what it says on the sentencing. If you do that, studies have shown that the recidivism rate, the repeat offender rate, is twice as much than if you are released in the community. Meaning, the whole purpose is to reintegrate individuals into society if possible. And what the studies have shown is that you're twice as likely to commit offenses if you are not released. And if you are released into the community and this happens, Mr. Hopley's case is a very good example of the system working. They picked him up right away, they were monitoring it, and it was dealt with. And it's unfortunate, but these things do happen, but it's rare.
So he was arrested this time within hours. It had to do once again with the electronic monitoring bracelet that he was wearing. And the first, that 10-day manhunt where he was, and he didn't turn himself in, but he was located.
Yeah, that's right.
That seems to be how important, just specifically to this case, that electronic monitoring bracelet. That's pretty key. It's pretty important.
Oh, if we could put our kids in our electronic monitoring, we'd be a lot more secure. I mean, of course it does, right? I'm not trying to be facetious. Obviously, if that works, we should do that. And if Mr. Hopley refuses to participate, then he's going to suffer the consequences. But again, it's an example of the system actually functioning properly. If an offender refuses to comply, there's a remedy for that. And I think what I really want to stress is that, let's go the good old days, right? The good old days of low crime, and things are terrible now. I started law school in 1992. The crime rate for violent crime back then was about 990 persons for every 100,000, so very low.
Yeah.
It's lower now.
I take your point.
It's lower now than it was then. It is not more violent, okay? And the big problem is people who should know better, meaning some politicians who I won't need to name, some politicians might be better served by giving cold hard facts and not requiring lawyers to come in here and say them.
So I take your point. You're taking issue with the politicians calling for more blanket changes based on what you're saying is a more isolated and very unusual.
Very much so.
Very unusual case. So let's talk more specifically about this unusual case.
Sure.
This is somebody who's been found guilty of abducting a 3-year-old child. They are guilty of sexual assault in the past, and the record of in and out of prison is very long. I think going back at least until 2011, the back and forth. Is there anything within the criminal code that could allow this individual to not be released for a more long period of time?
Well, yes.
Dangerous offender, I think, can't be applied in this case.
Well, he's not declared dangerous offender.
No.
You'd have to go backwards, which was not going to work. But it's the parole board. The parole board would have to say that you could stay longer. Now, as I understand it, Mr. Hopley was at his what's called stat release. Your stat release, which is short for statutory release, is the 2/3 period. So if you're given a 9-year jail sentence, the statutory release period is 6 years. And more often than not, you are released. If there's an issue, you are kept to what's called your warrant expiry. Your warrant expiry would be the 9 years. And that's a special application that's made because it's presumed that you'll be released on your stat. So the parole board looked at this and they decided that he was okay to be released on his stat. I mean, I will say I've dealt with a lot of parole hearings, and I have a lot of offenders that are, relatively high profile that were not released on their stat. So I don't think it's that easy. I don't know the facts of how Mr. Hopley was decided on, and you can look at that. Whether you need wholesale change, I doubt that. I don't think that's necessary.
Rishi Gill, thanks so much.
Thank you.